Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. It's Tuesday morning. It means we are here together talking about immigration news, and I'm answering your live questions. I've got kitten Umo here with me. Isn't she getting so big? Let's see if she's bigger than popcorn now. What do you guys think? I think she's bigger than popcorn now. Popcorn's 5, so she's not going to get any bigger. Umo's continuing to grow. So anyway, there's our little detour before we get started. We're here on Tuesday mornings in English, Thursday mornings in Espanol. I'm covering the news of the week for you, how to interpret all the headlines that you're seeing, everything you're seeing on your feed. What do you need to know about immigration? And then I'm here to answer your live questions about your immigration cases. So thanks for being with me. Go ahead and start putting your questions in the comments, and I will get to them in just a moment. I got off a boat yesterday, and I still have that feeling that I'm on a boat. Have you guys ever experienced that, where you get off a boat and then you feel like you're on a boat for a little while? It's very disorienting. I think it's called like mal de disembarkment syndrome or something. I realized I had it a couple of years ago, and every time it hits me, I'm like, woo. Okay, let's get to the first news item. Makes me so angry. We talked last week about how Gregory Bovino, who is a horrid, awful person, he's the head of CBP, which actually means Customs and Border Protection. He is the attack dog. ICE actually wasn't being aggressive enough for Trump administration standards. So they started sending in CBP, led by this guy, Gregory Bovino, who's the worst of the worst. And he, was responsible for the raid in Chicago with the helicopter on the apartment, which of course they revealed last week has resulted in 0 arrests, criminal arrests against the people who were detained. No surprises there. And we also talked last week about how CBP was on their way to Charlotte and New Orleans. It's hard to know politically exactly what happens to lead to, where the site of their next victim. We do know that in Charlotte, North Carolina, the local officials were not honoring what's called the ICE detainers. And this is where, like, let's say someone gets arrested for any level of crime. ICE can put something called an ICE hold on that person, and they have 48 hours to come and pick that person up for immigration reasons. Well, according to the articles that I read, officials in Charlotte were not honoring ICE detainers. And so in retaliation, CBP headed to Charlotte, and they called the operation. They love to make these like names for the operations. They call this one Operation Charlotte's Web. And in like one of his tweets, Gregory Bovino was like quoting the book Charlotte's Web, like we go anywhere, northeast, up, down. And it, like, anybody who's read the story, Charlotte's Web, that Charlotte uses her web to save the life of Wilbur the pig. It's like a benevolent thing, what Charlotte's Web is. And they're totally twisting it, and they're doing these massive ICE raid or CBP raids in Charlotte. It looks like over 130 people were detained. We don't have any information yet about who they were, but there were also reports that business in Charlotte was impacted, and that a lot of businesses were having to like close down, and that the economy was experiencing, negative consequences. And that's what's happening in Charlotte. They're supposed to be going to New Orleans next. And this is kind of what happens when these localities have to grapple with ICE demands. What happens if they don't cooperate? And this is what can happen. So it can really put local ICE officials, or I'm sorry, local law enforcement officials in a bind when they're trying to decide what level of cooperation they have. If they live in a jurisdiction that honors immigrants and they don't exactly want ICE, patrolling their streets or in their jails. But if they do any pushback, what can happen is CBP will come and do these raids locally, which of course makes people not safe either. So it's a really difficult position for mayors, police chiefs, sheriff's offices, all of these localities who are trying to make these decisions. I don't envy them. And, I think a lot of people feel very opinionated about what should happen. I totally understand that. Like, ICE out of the jails, that's going to be our local policy. But we do have to understand that the response to that can sometimes be worse than what like a low-level cooperative agreement could look like. It's just a delicate thing to think through. Okay, next news item. This is about asylum processing at the border. Since 2018, we've had asylum seekers just turned away under a policy called metering, where they say like, oh, we're not taking any more asylum seekers at the border. There's no basis for that in the asylum laws. And so there has been litigation ongoing about that. The most recent decision was that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals held that policy was unlawful. Not that the Trump administration has been honoring asylum seekers at the border, but that's what the courts were holding. In any event, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case on this. So we will have a decision from the highest court in the land on executive authority to meter asylum seekers at the border. So we'll be watching that closely, because whatever the Supreme Court says presumably will be followed by the Trump administration. Next, the Trump administration is talking about reviving the public charge rule. So the way that this looked during the first Trump administration is they said, okay, we're going to use the public charge rule, which means public charge is any immigrant who's going to become a public charge, meaning the public is responsible for maintaining this person, can't immigrate. And the way that that's done historically is anyone who's applying for a green card through family, their family member, the petitioner, has to submit their financial information and say, like, I'm going to sponsor this person and I will make sure that this person doesn't receive welfare. And that's been the way that this system has functioned, and it's been working for years and years and years. But during the first Trump administration, the public charge rule put a lot more burden on the applicant to demonstrate their own finances. Like, do they have a job? Do they have money in savings? Have they had a bankruptcy? Things like that. And they created this, I think it was like 45 pages. It was really complicated, really burdensome, problematic. And many of these people don't have jobs, right? They're new immigrants to the country. So it was also just unhelpful. When we have a working mechanism for this, we don't need to add complexity. But that, it looks like that might be coming back. There's some indication of that on the way. Two more items of news. The next one is, this will come as no surprise, student enrollment in U.S. universities has fallen by 17%. Immigrant student enrollment. So, of course, starting with, canceling, revoking a bunch of student visas several months ago, international foreign students are getting the message that they're not welcome to study here and they're going elsewhere. And we are losing the brightest minds in the world. These are students who live in other countries and they are so bright that they are admitted to U.S. universities and they come here to study. Many of them, the pathway for them is that once they graduate, they get what's called an H-1B visa and they go and work for U.S. companies. They innovate, they create patents, they're engineers, they do really important infrastructure and development work in this country. We're losing that pipeline because of our immigration policies under Trump. And that's a really key data point. 17%, that's almost 1 in 5 foreign students is not coming to the United States anymore. And then finally, I feel a sneeze coming on. This is a good news item. A federal judge in New York has blocked the ICE arrests at the courthouses. So we appreciate that. We appreciate when the federal courts step in. Let's start getting to your questions, guys. Marita on Instagram. I'm Latina. I came to the U.S. on a J-1 visa in 2017, overstayed, and then got married 2 years ago. I have a 2-year conditional green card. Is it safe for me to travel domestically or internationally? Yeah, if you have the 2-year green card and it's not expired, you're fine to travel both domestically and internationally. What you're going to need is a valid passport from your home country and your unexpired card, your green card. You want to make sure that before the expiration of that green card, you're applying to remove the conditions. And when that's pending, you're going to get a receipt notice that will automatically extend your green card. So you want to also travel with that receipt notice if you've applied and you don't have the new card yet. I would recommend that you have a lawyer who helps you with this, and then they can make sure, like, we know when you're traveling, we know you have the right documents. It's helpful to have that when you're in this sort of limbo period. Also, if you're still married to a U.S. citizen, at your 3-year mark, you're eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship. So I would say do the removal of conditions at 2 years, and then immediately 1 year after that, go for citizenship, and that'll be the most protective thing you can do. Maria, does DACA stop you from being deported? In my town, they're passing the 879 law. Not sure the exact name. I've not heard of that. But they stole my DACA and Texas ID. I can't renew my license while I wait on my DACA replacement. If I got stopped, would they try to deport me? Yeah, if you don't have proof of your status right now, you are at risk with DACA. There have been some dreamers who have been picked up. Not a ton. It's not like they're going after all the dreamers. There have been some dreamers who have been arrested, and you are more vulnerable if you don't have your work permit. I mean, I'm hoping that you have a copy of everything on your phone, that you took a picture of it, which would be helpful. And I don't know what the 879 law is. I'll try and look that up. If you can find something on that and you want to send it, I can review it. But yeah, if you don't have any current documentation, you are at risk. Guys, I want everybody to know the checkpoints are no longer safe for people who have work permits. So it's been for many years. There's lots of checkpoints along the border in Texas. And you used to be able to just cross through the checkpoints if you had work permits. They're now going after people who have work permits, and it should just be the asylum seekers who have work permits and not the dreamers. Like, they should discern between the type of work permit that someone has, but they're not. And so it's a really risky thing to travel through the checkpoints. So, and Maria, I would say for you, don't travel until you get your valid documentation, even domestically. Okay. Oh, look at you. People First Project. I'm on your campaign team. Excited and optimistic. Thank you so much. That is awesome. Let me take this moment, because of your comment, to share with you guys, if you don't already know, I am running for the Texas House of Representatives in District 50, which is Northeast Austin. The campaign is in full swing. We are accepting all the help we can get. The website is klg4texas.com. You can sign up there to volunteer. You can donate. We've got yard signs. And basically I am who I am. You know who I am. I'm a 20-year immigration lawyer. I've been fighting for families in Texas this whole time. I am very distressed about the way politics are going in Texas, the way public education is being handled, the way higher education is being handled, the attack on our LGBT community. And there are some other issues that I'm worried about as well, like who's monitoring what's happening with AI and deep fakes. There's just a lot of work to be done. And I'm not a typical politician. I don't owe anybody any favors. I'm here to just speak my mind and represent the people of Texas. And whatever needs to be said, I'm not afraid to say it. So if that sounds like something that you want to see in the Texas legislature, please do join the campaign as a supporter, because that's what, makes campaigns successful, is we have lots of people on our side. So thanks for your comment. Okay, Maria, follow up on your DACA. You just have the letter that says it's valid. That's good. Do you have a picture of your ID? Do you have a picture of your driver's license somewhere saved? Can you print that out and at least try to have those two things on you at all times? That would be helpful. If you at least have a photo while you're awaiting the DACA renewal. Next question. Would it be best for my husband to apply for citizenship at this time? He entered legally and he has permanent resident card. He plans to retire next year at 67. We have been married for 24 years and I am a U.S. citizen. What steps should we take to avoid any problems? Yes, absolutely. Anybody who has a green card who is eligible for U.S. citizenship should obtain U.S. citizenship, mostly because then you are protected against deportation. Once you have U.S. citizenship, you cannot be deported, even if they arrest you for something, even if you leave the country, even if you decide you want to retire and go live in Mexico for several years. You can do all of that with U.S. citizenship. But also, there's a lot of other benefits that come with citizen, aside from just security and protection. You can vote. You can vote in federal, state, and local elections, and for obvious reasons, that's really, really important. You can also petition for more family members. There's just a lot of benefits to being a U.S. citizen. So the way that you file is the N-400 is the form. Looks to me like, just based on your question, your husband doesn't have a lot of complicating factors. Go ahead and reach out to us. We'd be happy to offer a free consultation to talk through what it looks like, what the process looks like. We represent people in citizenship cases all the time. We send an attorney to the interview with you so that you are not alone, and we help you think through how to prepare for the civics test and all of that. All right, next question. If my TPS ends, which it probably will, look, TPS is a temporary program, and Trump so far has canceled every TPS renewal that's come before him. So if you have TPS, just expect that it is going to go away and make other plans. So this person says, if my TPS ends, can I switch to a work-based visa like an EB3 or an H2B? Sometimes you can do a change of status from one to another. Probably not, though. With TPS, you probably accrued unlawful presence before you obtained your TPS. So it's going to be difficult to switch to an employment case. Not impossible, but difficult. You can switch to a humanitarian case, an asylum case, family-based case. Those have different rules where you can still switch over if you've had unlawful presence. But generally, everybody on TPS needs to have a plan B. You need to talk to a lawyer and have something other than TPS, because they are, I think, going to start going after TPS holders who have their status revoked. Like a bunch, hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans earlier this month lost their TPS status. And that's just an easy list of people for them to start going after. And so I have concerns about TPS people who are losing your status and what's going to happen with you. And I highly, strongly recommend you consult with a lawyer and figure out what your plan B is so we can work on how to protect you. People First Project, benefits of citizenship. We get around 300 new citizens registered to vote every week. That's so great. So great. It's just the best. We need a bunch of new voters. And I'm so glad you're doing that. I'm so glad you're registering all those people. We're partnering with our Busing Fronteras, our mobile unit that goes out into the community. We're partnering to do some voter registration as well. Super exciting. Okay, this is a follow-up. Let me do this question. I have a U.S. citizen son who will turn 21 soon. What documents should I prepare to start my process? Okay, the first thing we need to do is consult with you about your eligibility. This is really, really common, right? Where we have a parent of a U.S. citizen child and that child is turning 21. And most people know that once your U.S. citizen child turns 21, they can petition for you as a parent. What a lot of people don't know is that the way that you entered as a parent really matters to the outcome. If you entered, 22 years ago without a visa, unfortunately, you cannot adjust status. You have to go through the consular process, which requires a waiver for unlawful presence. And you can't get that waiver based on your kiddo. So the simple way to say this is a lot of parents of U.S. citizens who are turning 21, if that parent originally entered without a visa, they can't get status through their child. And they've waited all this time and they don't know it. So the first thing to do is to consult with a firm like mine. As a reminder, we're still doing free consultations at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. We represent people all over the 50 United States. We can do virtual consultations. We have some availabilities on Saturdays. So we try to make it real easy for you to access the information that you need to protect yourself. And the easiest way to get a consultation is just to DM me or DM the firm. We have a team working in our social media messages. So they're really responsive. They tend to respond within 5 minutes to your message, and we can get you scheduled very quickly. I have a previous deportation, but now I'm married to a U.S. citizen. Can I still apply for a waiver? It depends on whether you re-entered without status after that deportation. So if you were deported and it was an actual deportation and not just like a voluntary return at the border, but like an actual judge ordered you deported and then you re-entered without permission, you have what's called the permanent bar, and you have to leave the country for 10 years in order to come back legally. But if it wasn't an actual deportation and you were just caught and then re-entered, then there is a waiver available. So sometimes if you don't know What happened? We have to do a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, where we order a copy of your file. When we do FOIAs at my office, we order a copy of your file from 5 different agencies. We look at the FBI, we look at the 2 agencies along the border, the court system, ICE, and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, because we want to pull all the records that they might have on you. So if you don't know exactly what happened with your deportation, we can help you figure that out too. All right, on Facebook, my husband is detained. I'm so sorry. He has a VAWA case started in 2024 and is legally married to a U.S. citizen and has 3 minor children who are U.S. citizens. If he gets a voluntary departure, how much time does he have to stay outside in Mexico to re-enter the U.S. legally and stay with his VAWA case and start a petition from Mexico? Okay. Can we please have a consultation? Because if your husband takes a voluntary departure, he loses VAWA eligibility. Once he leaves the country, he's not going to be able to apply for VAWA. So I would like to see if there's a way if we can get him out of detention rather than having him take a voluntary departure. I know it's really, really awful to be in detention. My guess is that he's saying, I just want to get out. I don't want to stay. Like, I'm going to sign whatever I need to sign to go. We see that a lot. But if we might be able to tell him that the outcome, because if he stays and he's got a good VAWA case, we might be able to get him out. If he leaves and he loses VAWA eligibility, then the process for getting back here legally is probably going to take years. So your family might face being separated for years if he gives up right now. I'm so sorry. But let's please consult with him about what happens depending on what choices he makes right now. And this, guys, is one of the reasons I say so often, please consult with a lawyer before the detention occurs, because what happens is when somebody like this woman's husband gets detained, they're just like, they just got, plucked off the streets or from their job or in their house. They weren't planning for it. They weren't thinking through what the plan was. They haven't had a chance to sit down with the kids and their wife and say, like, okay, if I get picked up, we are going to go down this pathway together. And that's what our family decision is. Or we're going to go down this pathway together. Instead, it's, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm in this horrible place and I just want out of here. And that's the only thing I can think about. So we need to think about this stuff ideally before the detention occurs. Alfonso on Instagram. Do you know immigration lawyers that do pro bono cases in the DFW area? Thank you for all the information and good luck with your campaign. Thank you. There are a lot of organizations that do pro bono work for immigrants. The problem is that the way that those organizations are funded is primarily through governmental grants. Some private donations, but those don't cover the work and, the attorney salaries and everything that's needed. So most of the organizations that do free or low-cost legal services have lost a ton of their funding and they've laid off most of their staff in this year. It's been a really, really difficult time. In Dallas, though, I would direct you to Catholic Charities. I know that they have a big operation. They do a lot of work. And of course, they have funding from the Catholic Church. So they're a little bit more protected against these governmental funding cuts. But that's where I would start in Dallas. Okay, tell it like it is. Spouse in without inspection, went through the green card process, did a waiver for unlawful presence. Will that affect him now of how he came in? Not if he already has the green card. Does he already have the green card or is he in process? Let me know where he is in the process. If he already has the green card, it's done. It's handled. If he's still waiting for the green card, then okay, I'm okay. It looks like he's already got the green card. You're good. You got through just in the nick of time by the skin of your teeth. Is that what they say? What a weird phrase, skin of your teeth. My asylum case was denied. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid to return to my country. What options do I have to avoid being deported? You have to appeal. When your asylum case gets denied, you have 30 days to file a notice of appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals, which is the appellate court over the immigration court system. And those appeals, they're hard to win, but they do take a while. So while your appeal is pending, your case is still pending. You don't have a final order while your appeal is pending. Oh, awesome. You have 2 immigration paralegals who can help with pro bono. Oh, okay. What kind of cases do they want to do? Will you send me a DM? Let me know what kind of cases they want to do, and I can see where we can maybe plug them in. Like, do they want to do citizenship drives? Like, they could fill out forms at the citizenship drives, maybe. I'm getting a lot of these TPS questions today. I'm waiting for my work permit from the parole process. How long is it taking, and what happens if I move while I'm waiting? Okay, this is a good question. Okay, first I need to know what type of parole process you're talking about. If it's a work permit from parole, I'm thinking it's probably parole in place, military parole in place. This is for family members of servicemen or women in the military, and you can get a work permit through this PIP program. Those really vary depending upon the field office, but probably somewhere between 3 and 12 months total is the wait time. And then here's the important question. If you move while you're waiting, you have to update your address with USCIS within 10 days. That's the regulation. But if you move to a different field office, it can be a nightmare. I've seen this happen so many times over the year where someone will have a case pending with immigration, like a work permit case or a green card case or a citizenship case, and then the way that the case flows with immigration is you send it to the lockbox, and then the lockbox sends it to the field office, and you are within a certain field office because of your zip code. But if you move to another field office, then that field office has to forward your file to the field office where you've moved, and the humans do it, and errors occur. And I've seen a number of cases throughout the years just get like lost forever or for years because they moved mid-case. So sometimes you have to move, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not telling you not to move, but do try to avoid moving from one field office to another while your case is pending with the field office. It can be problematic. Okay, can you speak about bond stuff? Does this apply for visas and green card holders or no status? Sure, you bet. Sorry, I've got a leaf blower going outside. I don't know if that's loud for you guys. But okay, so a bond is to get somebody out of detention. So if somebody has been detained, the first thing we want to do is apply for release on bond. And we go to an immigration judge and we say, this person is not a flight risk. Like, they're going to show up for their hearings and they're not a danger to the community. And you have to submit evidence of that, like maybe their kids' birth certificates or a marriage license or proof of a job or home ownership, etc., things like that. So the first thing we're going to do when we have a detained client is see if we can get them out on bond. That's the fastest way to get them out. One of the things that has been less reported on, because it's a little more obscure, is the attack on bond eligibility. So the immigration court system, which is actually ruled by the Department of Justice, which is ruled by the president. So unfortunately, the immigration courts are not independent from the executive branch. And they've been issuing decisions saying, like, if somebody entered the country without a visa, they're not eligible for release on bond. So the majority of people who are getting picked up can't get out on bond. So they have to fight their case and stay detained, which is really unacceptable for a lot of people. But if someone who has a valid visa or they have a green card and they get picked up by ICE, that's a person who is going to be eligible for release on bond. And so we'll apply to get them out, and then you pay a certain amount and you get out of detention. That's what we're talking about when we say bond. All right, what did I do with my tip of the week? Here it is. Okay. Let me do 2 more questions. I entered with a visa, but I overstayed. Now I have a job offer. Can I apply for an employment-based visa? No, you can't get employment-based status if you have unlawful presence. So that employment is one of those strictest ways that people immigrate. There's employment, getting a job, right? Then there's family through a relative. Then there's humanitarian. Then there's deportation defense. The most strict is employment. You cannot have unlawful presence. You can't have been in the country without status. So if you overstayed a visa, you're not going to be able to get employment visa. And I see one more question coming in. So I will answer this question coming in. while I'm doing that, let me give you guys your action tip of the week. Remember, we're always talking about what can we do to make an impact in ways that are new or innovative. Okay. I want to tell you guys about Randall Gamboa. He is a detainee, a man who was in immigration custody. And on October 26th, he was taken to the hospital in a vegetative state and he died. And we want Congress to investigate what happened to Randall Gamboa. So if you are in Texas's 34th congressional district, which is down in the valley, like Harlingen area, please contact Representative Vicente Gonzalez and tell him to investigate what happened to Randall Gamboa. Your other action tip of the week is I want to remind you guys about our Mercadito. You might know that every month on the first Saturday we do a cafecito, which is just a party in the morning for the community, and we have coffee and hang out. It's always very fun. This month coming up in December, we're doing a mercadito and a posada. It's going to be on the evening of the 7th, which is a Sunday, and we're going to have vendors and, the community coming out, all of that. We're really excited about. So if you are a vendor and you want to come to our mercadito, please DM me. We'd love to have you. You can sell anything you want, candles, jewelry, etc. Or if you are just a community organizer and you want to tell people about your organization and the work that you're doing, please come and join us. That is the Mercadito. Okay, let me answer these last questions. They're coming in right now. Thank you so much. What is the case when you have a valid work permit in the process of U visa and get detained? You shouldn't get detained if you have a valid work visa and a U visa pending. Unless you've been arrested by the police for commission of a crime. You should not be getting picked up by ICE if you're in valid U visa status with a work permit. But the process would be call your lawyer and your lawyer would get you out. This is in Spanish. I'll repeat it in English. ¿Cuánto cuesta la representación legal de menores ante la Corte de Inmigración? Eso depende mucho en el tipo de caso que es, pero puede ser miles de dólares. So hay que ahorrar dinero en caso de que estén puestos en ese proceso. This is how much is it to represent minors before immigration court? It really, really depends on the case type. But what I will share is that defense in immigration court is the highest cost item because you're going to court, you have an attorney who's going with you. It's not just an application that you mail off. So, and this is another reason why if you are eligible for some relief, that you should go for it now because it's cheaper to apply for affirmative relief than to defend yourself in immigration court. But anyway, I'll see you guys at the Mercadito the 7th of December, 5 to 8 p.m. It's going to be at our offices at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law. Y nos vemos el jueves en español. I'll be answering your questions in Spanish. Thanks for being here with me. And Umo says, adios. You say bye-bye to everybody. Popcorn's down here. I don't know if you can see her, but I'm covered in puppies and kitties.